going to share your screen. Okay. Right, I'll start again. So, having looked at all the images that were put forward, it was just, I thought to myself, well, let me have a look and see what I would pick if I were Ken. Bearing in mind what I said in the newsletter, that some need to be considered for impact as opposed to ones that stand any length of judging. But while I was looking at that, I certainly saw something that really shocked me, because what I will go through in a moment, just the reasons for it. Basically, to get the best results, you need to display your image as an sRGB if you're going into digital competitions. But to get the best print, you need to get it done as an ARGB, which has got a greater color gamut. But there are other color profiles available, and some of those are actually in use by some of the people in this room. I can't remember, and I won't name names anyway, but there was all sorts of color gamuts. Now, the reason I've extended my talk over and above raw editing is to try and get this straight with some people. You might not know it, might have been just forgot to do it, I don't know. But I'm going to start where I think we should start, on a very basic level, is with the camera settings. Now, normally if you buy a camera, it comes and the default will be sRGB. We all know now that RAW gives us greater detail. It actually shows us exactly what the image, what the sensor saw when you click the shutter. So that is the best sort of end result you can work from. So that is the first part of my talk tonight, is getting your camera settings right to allow you to get the maximum ultimately for a print, and that can then be converted as a digital image. So as it's a Photoshop night, I thought I'd run through Photoshop and show you how I set up here. Now, Peter's covered a bit of this in the past on his tutorial about setting up Photoshop. I'm just opening an image here, and basically you can see that now as the raw image. There's highlights over there. But one of the functions I wanted to talk about when I had great trouble on our Zoom meeting was this feature here of cropping. Now, you ultimately will want to produce a digital image that is 1600 by 1200 pixels. And if you want to start from scratch and cut to your actual size, you can select 4:3. And if you can convert 4:3, it is actually 1600 by 12. So then you can work through the image and you can just jiggle it around however you want, cut out what you want so that it fits the picture, and gives you the impact, a bit of space, and so on. Now, for me, I think this one would be better in actual fact. And I've showed you that because using the 4:3 will give you the actual ratio that you will require for the ultimate finished image as a digital. And furthermore, it's still a pretty good ratio, width to height, for a print. So that could even work as that. But for this one, I'm going to choose the square image, because I think there's room in there for this to give him a bit of space, get rid of a lot of rubbish, and we crop it there. Okay. Now, having cropped it, if you then click on your mouse again, it comes up to the full size. Then you can play around with your settings to get this in greater detail, cutting out highlights, etc. So you can play with your heart's content with these. We've got a lot of white in there, and we can just darken that and bring a little bit out in the crowds by getting rid of the highlights or winding them up. You can do a bit on the whites. Okay, and there is a bit more in the sky now than just the bland sky. But if you really want to feature it, you can use the mask. And if you get a mask and drag it across, you can focus on him almost like you're creating a vignette. Take the exposure. Oh, what's going on there? Okay, well, for some reason I'm getting color changes here now, which I didn't expect to have, but we put some darkness in there. Where the hell's these colors are coming from? What has this happened to me? It's crazy. Get rid of the highlights again. And take the contrast down. And take what I wanted to do is get that, but somehow or another, it's selected for. Let's try moving that one. That's better. Somehow or another, that's happened. All I'm showing you in principle, and I get it right, because it's gone crazy on me. There's a delay on this, which is causing me no end of problem. But if you wanted to do that, all you've got to do, you've got another option here, and you can actually, if I can see that, I can invert it. I've got rid of it there actually. So let's try that again now. So we can drag and mask it. I'm showing you this. It isn't really that much of a problem on this image, but I'm showing you in principle how, for example, on Martin's shot, the rugby shot, Peter decided to stretch the building in the background, which is very good. But on the other hand, you've got to use the mask across the top and just took all the brightness out of that and almost blended it into the color of the buildings around. And then did a bit of a crop. But for some reason there, I seem to have the wrong color. So I set all this.
Graduated filter you picked up.
Pardon?
Is it a color graduated filter?
I don't think so. It shouldn't be. I did all this afternoon. But anyway, the principle is here for you to see. Okay. What I think an image certainly benefits from is oh bugger. I didn't deselect that. This isn't as quick as my laptop. So I'm going to shut this down and start again, I think. Right, let's go. I'm watching this screen here instead of this one, actually. I got the wrong bloody glasses. Open. Well, what I'm going to show you now, actually, is the one that I've actually set up earlier. And now I will open the original. Let's go back to where we were. Going to go through that process again. Select there, look, your ratio of crop. Punch that in. Give them a little bit more space. Just hit return to crop it. Just left click with the mouse and it brings it out to the full screen. I won't mess around with darkening down the top now, other than just taking it down a little with the highlights and dragging the whites to make them, you know, a bit more subtle. One of the big issues with dark colours is seeing detail in them. You've all heard judges talk about, I can't see any detail in the darks, in the blacks. And this is quite a good tool for it, there's shadows. Some of you already do all these things, I don't doubt, but I'm going to run through it for those that don't use such things. Texture is another really good tool, and you can get right into it and bring out the detail in this black, not just the lifting the shadows to allow you to see it. It's not easy in this one. I'm looking at that screen and working on this one. Okay, so that's one of my secrets for showing detail in any dark color. There are two masks. We messed around with the horizontal and vertical one just now, but there's a round one. Now this image doesn't really need it, but I'm going to do it to show you its function if you don't already use it. Now we all talk about seeing the eye in a rider. Okay, so if we use that mask, we can now play around with the exposure on a face. Yeah? Bring it up so that you can, his eyes isn't quite showing because he's looking down, but you can see that you can improve the features on, just, it could be if you had goggles on, just do on the goggles even. Probably a little bit more contrast on the face there.
So you're saying this gives you more control than the dodging and burning that you do at Photoshop?
Well, this is the rough start of it all, Martin. This is where I start from, and so that when I'm in Photoshop, I don't do a great deal. I really do everything possible here to get the sharpness, get exposures, take away obvious highlights, light and dark areas, because it's so simple with all these in front of you, rather than going to a complex set of drop downs in Photoshop to find them. So let's open that one now. I open it as a copy. Okay. Now.
So we're now in Photoshop.
Now I'm back into Photoshop now. We talked just now about getting rid of objects, but I'll show you something in a moment which can control this mouse like I do. You can see the detail in the bike is quite good, but we don't really want that guy there. So like Peter did earlier, I'm going to use the content aware, and all I'm going to do is just draw a little box around this guy. These days you don't know that so much. Okay, now if you go to content aware and use the fill command. I can't see, I've got the wrong. Okay, that throws you over there. Matey's gone. You apply it and OK to open the image. Then you have to deselect that area. Okay. There is a little bit rough there. You can touch that up with the cloning tool, of course, just to blend in a little bit better where there is a level where the bike is there. And there's a bit of smudging there, which is very easy to get rid of with the clone tool. Okay, now what I'm going to go on to now is, this is now in RGB and would be suitable to print as such. But because we all want to enter, well, we got to give Ken a copy of our print. So in order for Ken to see them accurately, he uses the software program called Dicentra. Now, Dicentra can only handle well, whatever comes into it will go out to the projector as a sRGB. So if you now just put this in as an ARGB, changing it from an ARGB to an sRGB, you lose a range of the color because it is not such a wide color gamut. It generally darkens the image. What I'm going to do now is demonstrate that, I hope. And what I'm going to do is go to Edit and down to Assign Profile. Okay. I hope you see a change now. Now you see this one's actually in ARGB, and at the moment this computer is set to give an output as an ARGB. Now it's now become, and you assign, you don't convert, you assign that profile to that image. Don't know whether there was any real change there, but now you will actually get projected what you can see on your screen. If you do lose color or it's duller, then you can obviously go back into the menu of Photoshop and increase that again. And all these pictures are on top of my adjustments here. So you can, if you want to bring the saturation of the color up a bit, just select that and you can bring up to what you want. Okay.
So that change you made, Brian, that's just related to that one picture. It's not going to happen on all the future ones.
No, that's just this picture. I could have done this in slightly different order, what I'm going to talk about in total.
So just remind me then, does Centra, does that change it to sRGB by default?
Yeah.
And you're at risk of how it looks after that?
Absolutely.
Is that right?
That's exactly it. And if you look at our images, they're all sorts. Really are. There's only a few, even some of my own haven't been converted because I forgot. So that's something that's important. And I've heard people say, well, it's not like on my screen at home. And that could be one of the reasons. Not always. Could be that your screen isn't calibrating the same as this. But anyway, now I had a talk with a member yesterday who told me the most complex way of presenting is digital images and putting a stroke on them. But what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go into image and then I'm going to select the size because this is obviously an awful lot bigger than is needed. I changed it now to pixels and you can see I've got 5,000. Well, all we actually need, but bear in mind, Centra once again will only take an image 1,600 pixels wide and 1,200 high. And 1,200 is the critical bit. This is square, so whichever one of these I change to 1,200, the other one should automatically go with it. Now, here there's other options. Preserve details is better than automatic. It's quite a new addition to Photoshop. Well, I say new, but probably about a year or so. Is that right, Peter?
We do.
No,
He said yes.
Okay, so now we're reducing the size of that image. You can see what it actually is. Go away. Something going wrong here. Anyway, I've now set that at 1,200 by 1,200. Do you agree? Hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm going to put a stroke on here. You do that by selecting all. Yeah. Go to the edit command, drop down to stroke. And I'm on the layer, that's why I'm wrong. But that don't matter, because I was on the layer then. But now we get the stroke command and the box comes up. We've been advised by certain judges in the past that they like to see the border very narrow. And if it complements one of the colors in the image, it's easy enough done by putting your mouse over that area there and using this tool here to select the red. It's a bit bright, that, isn't it? But we'll go on that sort of shade. So now click. Okay, and we've now got a toothpick.
Why did you have that on center rather than inside?
I guess it's habit, Martin. I've always done that.
Because surely if you've made it 1200, you've actually now made it 1201 or 1202.
No, I don't think so.
No?
We'll check.
Yeah.
I always did it inside, so it's within that
Deselect.
range that you already used.
Check image size. 1200.
It's still 1200. Okay.
Okay, but now that one's ready to send to Ken. It is now an sRGB with the correct settings on it. So you will actually get displayed, if your screen at home agrees with this projection system, you will see exactly what you have there.
The difference it makes, Martin, is that the stroke is half a pixel wide instead of 1 pixel.
Okay, so yeah. If I made it inside, it would draw 1 pixel inside the box, yeah?
Right.
Okay, you all happy with what I've said? Yeah. Okay, let's see what else we can have a look at then. Setting up Photoshop, I started to say that I did go on with this edit just a bit quicker than I might have done. But what you should be absolutely sure of is that your copy of Photoshop is set up to tie up with your camera settings. And you can do this by going into Edit. Down the bottom, you've got Preferences, and you go into General, and you can then select, let me quick look here, safe groping in the dark. If we go to, first of all, we'll go to Workspace, Tools. By the way, if you, for moving the size of the picture in and out, zooming in and out, on the Tools one, there's a zoom on there, click that, and the wheel on your mouse will operate the image as a zoom in and out, which is very, very handy if you come to point sharpening, using the point sharpening command, because you can pull it up really big. You can see the underneath how it's going on there. And it's so easy to do. Okay, I'm going on a bit here, but just want you to see what I'm up to. There's lots of other, Peter's got a very, very good tutorial, which I've used a number of times because I've had to reload bloody Photoshop a few times. Units and rules, okay? If your printer is a Canon, you should have 300 pixels there, but if you've got an Epson, it should be 360. It defaults to 300. But if you've got an Epson printer, this is all in Peter's tutorial as well. So I'm not claiming to be careful, I just remember what he told us. So that's important. Your camera, if it's a Sony shooting on 360, this will all marry up together. The other thing you must also be sure of, as I said just now, that you have the right color assignment. So to get the best from your prints, you go to color settings, okay? And I changed this afternoon because the default is sRGB and the gamma, which is the grays, is not the 2.2, it's something else. This once again is on Peter's tutorial, which you've all had links from. If you want them again, I've got them for you to access on our YouTube channel. So you need to set your own copy up to ARGB, and the gamma in there needs to be 2.2. That's the main things to do with producing good prints, okay? I'm not going to go into more details of Peter's thing, but it's things I've picked up and I've been doing ever since to make sure I maximize what I get from my camera onto a print and then convert that print to an sRGB file so that I can enter it as a digital copy. So let's go back now and pretend we're going to print this this picture, and we go into the print command. Bloody cameras again here. Save printer and frame not compatible with the version of Photoshop. Oh, I won't worry about that for now. Okay, you can see that this is a small image. Now remember, I converted it to a digital copy. Maybe I should go back, but no, I'll leave it for this for now. Because what I want you to be sure that you're doing, that you got your printer settings correctly. Okay. So by going to printer settings, you can open this box and you can choose the type of paper you use. You can then choose your color and then the print quality, which defaults to speed. You go to maximum quality. Mode of adjustment, you want to be in ARGB to get the greatest shades of all the colors within your print. And then that's set on A4 now, but I'll leave it at that for now. We won't worry about that because, you know, I've changed that image and I don't want to mess around and take up too much of the night. It's just a principle for you that don't know these things or perhaps want refreshing on it. I don't expect many people in the room will be learning much from this, but I'm sure others will.
So do you always put Photoshop manages the color?
Always. That's one of the main things. Bear in mind that we've done all this with Photoshop and set it up in Photoshop. So why would we choose to let the option is that the printer controls it? Well, why would you want the printer to control it when you've set it up? You see, there's your options. So it's got to
let you print your own, yeah?
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, if you don't, all what you have to do is if you send one off to the printers, you make sure that whatever image you send, be it JPEG or whatever, that is an ARGB, not sRGB. You only change
the ARGB for printing,
for
but
print.
sRGB for.
So if you send your images away to be printed, then make sure they are ARGBs. Yeah. Then you've got the benefit of the full color range.
And Brian, when I'm going to send one of my images to be printed, I've got into the habit of upping the brightness before I send that off. Would what you're saying solve that problem, or will I still expect a certain amount of darkening when I print them anyway?
Well, let me put it like this, Tom. I suffered like you did for donkey's years. Do you know the problem? The screen's too bright.
Yeah.
You can do all the calibrations in the world. If your screen's too bright, you will set it to look right on your screen. And I've wasted a ton of paper over the years, so I print my own. And I got in the point where I always overexposed it, brightened it, whatever, in order to get a decent lightness on the print. But if you turn your brightness on your monitor down, on my new monitor, it stands at virtually 0. And I get print exactly on the screen when I come out on the printer. So consider that one first.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't understand why the calibration doesn't take into account the brightness it sees.
Yeah, it's true, Martin. It doesn't. That's for sure.
I hear what you say, but I just would have hoped it would have taken that into account because it.
Well, it does take it into account, but you have to set it up when the start of it, you have to take the ambient image, oh, sorry, the ambient light as well before you start the process.
Yeah, yeah. And you need consistent ambient light and you need consistent colours around you as well, don't you? You go and put your red jumper on, it'll look different to you, won't it?
Correct.
My position where I got my computer screen it's a nightmare, and I edit in the morning or at night. Don't try during the day. I got a big sun canopy outside the French doors, and sometimes I widen that out 2 meters out and try and get a bit of shade. But if I set them up in the day, I bet you when I come to do anything with them later, I'll change them again.
You all realise we do have a calibration tool as a club, which people can borrow.
We've got it at the moment.
Okay, so you're all happy with this?
One thing before you go on, well, I should say that when you're sending your prints away, you ought to ask what format they want them in, because some of them do still ask for sRGB rather than ARGB. So you really need to ask your supplier what they want before you send them.
So you can see that when we went back, we can see the detail in the blacks now. They weren't obvious earlier. Okay, so what else have I got to say? I think we've probably covered most things, not in the order I intended to do them, but I hope you've got something from this, and that we all enter our digital ones now as sRGBs. I think Mike told me that he uses the Nick collection in order to put a border on. It takes him about a bloody hour. He's got to go in and mess around and find this and that. I said, Mike, this is all you got to do. And that's add that to looking at our own images, which we're going to send out to be judged. And I think Graham's using Pro Photo or something. Just come back to me. Your colour gamut that you're using on your copy of Photoshop is Pro Photo, I think it's called. It might not be you, but I think it
I don't think it is, because watching you tonight, I've done exactly what you said.
Okay. Well, maybe it's not you. Someone's using Pro
I will
Photo.
double check, but
Has some of this issue come because we create an image for print, and as a club, we ask for a digital copy? So people just quickly
Yeah.
burn off a digital copy of what they had created to print. You know what I mean?
Like I said, when I looked through, I thought, oh, bugger, I missed that one.
Yeah.
I've been conscious of this for quite a while now, and I have been doing all of them like that. I might have dug out an old one to add to the DPEC entry, but potential entries, and didn't do that one, you know?
All of mine are the ARGB, so I don't produce anything in digital, it's always print.
Well, I looked at that, and Peter Owens was mostly RGBs, and so was our chairman's. So anyway, it's just to remind you all, if we want our images projected as we see them, you've got to do that. All minor little details, but ultimately it might mean a point or two in competitions. At the end of it, that's because you're displaying it to its full advantage.
It's relatively simple, isn't it, right?
Oh,
Once you get in the habit of doing it, it's okay, it's just learning that process.
Yeah.
Shall we go?
Okay, any more to be done, Seth? I think I've covered all my points. Can you add anything, Peter? You're muted.
If anyone's not used to it.
No, I'm okay.
No, I've unmuted you here. So you,
I unmuted myself here.
Your move.
okay.
If anyone's not used to how to enter digital into a competition, then let us know, let me know, let Brian know, and we'll simply take you through it on a laptop. It's relatively easy. And once you've done it a few times, it's not too bad. We used to have a macro that did it for you, but I guess we've lost that now, have we, Peter? The one that Matt wrote.
Yeah, that website was just taken down, Martin. I had no access to it.
that sort of formatted it for you. But yeah, even some of our more experienced members sometimes forget how to do this. And I get the odd phone. I had one last competition, I think, asking how we put in a portrait picture. Yeah. But happy to remind people if needed. So.
I'll quickly run through this one a minute because we're sending a lot of pictures off to the rugby club, and looking at this one here, I mean, I popped up with Winston last weekend. It was a nice afternoon. No one wanted to come up. That's not stopping me. So I'm going to do a quick edit on this one because this one's rather different, and it's actually begging to be a letterbox type style image because they're all in a line. And what I do for that is select 16 benign, drag it in till they just about leave their feet in, and you find that features. Obviously, you want the man with the ball. I mean, sometimes I might push it over so that you know, we only perhaps want one there, but we'll leave it out there for the time being. Just hit your return, it crops it, and out you come. You've got some whites about, you've got various things in the background. Let me try and do that masking again. This is just for the sake of it. But what it also does is concentrates the eye to, you know, the players. Drop that down a bit.
Do you find you have to do anything special for the rugby club if they want to use them for the media or publicity? I.e. colours, intensities or anything? Or?
No, I got my screen's calibrated and I just trust that to be right.
The one thing I am aware of is, whereas we try to illuminate hoardings and backgrounds, because they're their sponsors, they quite like that to be in the picture as well. Yeah. Because that's actually what the sponsors are paying for.
I just try and dumb down, but still keep.
Yeah, but you know, if the club like it to be recognisable.
Oh yeah, you go out and see it.
Whereas as a pure photographer, you'd prefer you didn't have the writing there.
I've got to be honest, I'm not overly concerned. I just tend to put it back and focus on the players, but everything's what's in the image is in the image.
But, you know, Mr. RT Signs pays a lot of money every month to have his sign there.
Oh yeah, so it's in the shot, and I always use that when I crop to square it up.
Because you see what that mask has done to the top now.
Yeah.
It's really concentrating your eye on the play. I could go further, but I mean, you need to play with these. The dehaze does tend to bring in graininess, so be careful with that one, particularly if you've got a lot of dark in your picture. Blacks I seldom touch. I do use the whites, but these guys got white shirts, so we'll leave them nice and white.
So when you expose that, Brian, what did you meter for?
Well, my metering setting is always on small spot, almost entirely, because as I'm well known, I'm wildlife predominantly, but action photographs is no different than wildlife, because the only guy I'm interested on that field is the one that's got the ball.
Yeah.
What colour the bushes are, or his shirt is, or the grass is, I care not which is what's it.
Right.
So I meter on there. And the metering is linked to the focus point, and the focus point for sports is set in the middle. Okay, I don't let it go wide because matey might just pinch. You know, I know they're pretty reliable nowadays and will stay and hold on with the tracking, or on Canons, it's AI servo, etc. But I have had instances where this guy, and it was a nice moment in time, but the focus has moved to the nearer person.
Yeah.
So I stick to that. I also do it for whippets. I'm interested in the one that's in front, not the rest of them. If they're, I would on whippet races, for example, set a much higher F number, so I got a greater depth of field, so that the dogs that's close behind it are also quite well in focus. Whereas on this, I don't want the background. I want the background to be quite well. You can there's my settings. What can't speak can't lie. Look.
2.8.
Yeah. And at distance, of course, this is something Peter explained to me a long time ago. The f2.8 is gives you a blurred background if the background is close to the person you're photographing. If the background behind them is a long way away, it matters very little whether you're shooting at f4 or f2.8. It would give you a difference if you went as far as f8. It wouldn't be as noticeable as if that person was close to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So f2.8 can give you obviously lower ISOs, letting more light in, you know, particularly on a dodgy day, which rugby often that takes place in, you know, in the winter night.
So you did nothing special for the white shirts then at the taking stage?
No, I didn't consider it. I will get rid of that in here.
Yeah.
My eyes are so bad. That's mud on that bloke there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I use monitor glasses at home now, but these glasses aren't anywhere near as good as my monitor ones. But that looks pretty good on that screen. What it looks like to you, I don't know. But we'll just open that one up once again. You might feel that, you know, someone had a joke about my cricket shot just now. You might just, I always leave that to ratio, by the way, so that I can move this now. Okay. Don't need as much grass. In fairness, you don't really need all that up there. If you could get rid of that bit of white, although we've actually allowed for it already, then there's nothing wrong with that. Once again, set your size. And all right, we set this one, but now because it's letterbox, this you set the bottom one, not the top one. Okay. So that's 1200 high. Oh, I beg your pardon. You set the top one. I beg your pardon.
1600.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's the top one because I made a letterbox of that. Sorry, I got that wrong. So you can see I only got height of 657 now. This is where Mike Cook slipped out the other day. But once again, select all, edit, stroke, choose your color. So a bit of green this time. Okay, 2 pixels, biggity boo, deselect, just to check it, deselect. What's going on here?
Press the space bar, right, you can then use a hand.
Okay,
If you press the space bar, you can use a hand tool to move the image where it's screen.
so we're going on here. I think the image needs flattening. Yeah, there's 2 layers there in actual fact. Now we'll go. Oh, one.
You need to select one of the different tools on the left, right? Select one of the different tools on the left.
Okay. That's what I want. Okay, well, that's my bit.
Okay, thank you.
Hope it provokes.
Any questions from anyone? I see those raw tools are now becoming very powerful, aren't they? Yeah. I know I asked the question earlier about doing it in raw rather than later in Photoshop, but more isn't there?
I only touched on a fraction of
Yeah.
it. It'd be all night on it.
And then you come down, and there's geometry and then all sorts further, isn't there? So you can spend a lot of time.
Colour blending,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
all sorts. I mean, I don't pretend to know half of it. All I'm showing you is what little bits I picked up from having a go and
Yeah.
badgering the arse off Peter, as I regularly do. But it keeps him alive.
But you don't use Lightroom, because I do all that in Lightroom.
Yeah, I've used Lightroom, but
Lightroom's a raw processor, isn't it, really,
Yeah.
Peter?
Yes, it's just the same thing. I mean, Lightroom came along, Camera Raw, which is the engine for the raw processor in both Lightroom and Photoshop, was obviously in Photoshop first. When they introduced Lightroom, it's really as a cataloger rather than anything else, but it's gradually increased its facilities until you've got what you have now.
Which is basically catalog.
There is a new one coming out this week.
Yeah.
And
is it?
yeah.
I only use it to import and create a catalogue. That's all I use it for. I have mucked around with it just to try, but I like around in raw on most things. Like I say, I can I want them to set the areas of lightness and colour all on the as without messing around going into comp across the.
I think the benefit of Lightroom is it's just the regular borders that you smash your stems on masses of images quickly. You don't have to do people face it across the whole.
You can do that in RAW. Do it in
Oh,
RAW.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Select 50 images, if they're all around about the same exposure,
Yeah, but I think.
crop them all together.
Lightroom's, of course, more designed for actually doing that.
Yeah, user interfaces, I find some of their hassle.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you write all that up, Brian, for the newsletter.
Did you turn off the record?
Anyone got any questions? Really rudimentary, fundamental.
Press for Brian, please, what you've shown us. Could you, when you do the letter this week, could you send us the link for Peter's intro?
Yeah, I'll send you all of the links separately.
Brilliant.
Okay, so you can keep that. And then you've got them. I've actually put on the list that Martin gave me some